Hello, my name is Ryan, and I live in the United States. Life seemed perfect, or at least that's what I told myself. I was 22, ambitious, driven, and most importantly, I had everything mapped out. My girlfriend Melissa and I were building our future together. We'd been in college for 3 years, determined to graduate with honors and take on the world as a team. My parents were pillars of support, the quintessential suburban power couple. Dad ran his own construction business while Mom volunteered at church every weekend. They preached hard work, integrity, and family loyalty above all else. They were demanding, sure, but I thought they'd always have my back when it mattered. I couldn't have been more wrong. Melissa and I had been together since high school. We connected at a mutual friends party during senior year, and it felt like fate. We had big plans: finishing college, landing corporate jobs, buying our first home before 30. I pictured Sunday barbecues in our backyard, a golden retriever running around, maybe a couple of kids down the line. The American dream personified. But life had other plans, plans that would shatter everything I believed about family, loyalty, and love. The beginning of the end started with a text. "We need to talk. It's important." Those words from Melissa sent a chill down my spine. When someone says they need to talk, it's rarely good news. We met at our favorite coffee shop, the one with the overstuffed armchairs and the barista who always remembered our orders. Melissa looked different that day. Her normally bright eyes were clouded, her smile absent. "I'm pregnant," she said, the words landing between us like a grenade with the pin pulled. The world stopped. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. I wasn't ready for this. We weren't ready. We still had a year left of college. I had student loans to pay off. She had plans for grad school. But there it was, a reality we couldn't escape. When did you find out?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. "Last week, I took 3 tests, all positive." Her voice cracked slightly. For the next few days, we talked endlessly, weighing options, discussing scenarios. Melissa wanted to keep the baby. Despite the fear in her eyes, there was also determination. I respected her choice. The more we talked about it, the more I warmed to the idea. It wasn't part of the plan, but plans change. We could make this work. I could finish my degree, take that job offer from my uncle's firm, and Melissa could take online classes until the baby was older. We'd adjust our timeline, but our dreams were still achievable. I started to picture a nursery in our future home, a little one with Melissa's eyes and my stubborn chin. But then came the bombshell that would destroy everything. It was a Wednesday evening. Melissa called and asked to come over, her voice strange and distant. When she arrived at my apartment, her eyes were red and swollen. She'd been crying. My stomach dropped. Something was very wrong. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice barely audible. "The baby, it might not be yours." The words hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room seemed to tilt on its axis. "What do you mean, might not be? Who else could be the father?" I demanded, my voice rising with each word. She couldn't look at me as she whispered, "Your brother, Alex." The world collapsed around me. My brother, my younger brother Alex, who lived with my parents while attending community college. Alex, who I'd brought Melissa home to meet my family. Alex, who I trusted completely. "It was a mistake," she continued, words tumbling out between sobs. "It only happened once. You were away at that conference in Chicago. I went to your parents' house to drop off the birthday gift for your mom, and Alex was there alone. We had a few drinks, and I'm so sorry, Ryan. I never meant to hurt you." I couldn't process what I was hearing. My girlfriend of 4 years and my brother had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And now she was pregnant, possibly with my brother's child. "Does he know?" I asked, my voice unnaturally calm despite the hurricane raging inside me. "Yes, I told him yesterday. And he said if it's his, he wants to be involved." I laughed then, a hollow broken sound that scared even me. "Of course he does. Saint Alex, always doing the right thing after he's already screwed everything up." I called Alex immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice cautious. "Ryan, tell me it's not true," I cut him off. "Tell me you didn't sleep with Melissa." The silence on the other end was all the confirmation I needed. "I messed up, bro. I know that, and I'm sorry. he finally said, his voice maddeningly calm. But if that baby is mine, I have to step up. You'd do the same thing. No, Alex, I wouldn't do the same thing because I would never betray my brother in the first place. I spat into the phone. You had no right. I know I didn't. It just happened, okay? We made a mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. But now there might be a child involved, and that changes everything. I hung up, unable to listen to another word. I turned to Melissa, who stood trembling in the middle of my living room. Get out, I said quietly. Ryan, please. Get out! I roared, my control finally snapping. We're done. Whatever we had, whatever I thought we had, it's over. After she left, I sat in the dark for hours, trying to make sense of how my life had imploded in a single day. Then my phone lit up with a message from my mother. We need to talk. Come home tomorrow. Family meeting. The next day, I drove to my parents' suburban home with dread coursing through my veins. The familiar two-story house with its manicured lawn and American flag flying by the door no longer felt like a sanctuary. When I walked in, they were all there. Mom, Dad, and Alex, sitting around the dining table like we were about to have Sunday dinner instead of discussing how my brother had destroyed my life. My mother spoke first, her voice soft but firm. Ryan, Alex told us everything. About Melissa, about the baby. I looked at my brother, who had the decency to look ashamed at least. And what did he tell you exactly? That he slept with my girlfriend. That he might have gotten her pregnant behind my back. He told us they made a mistake, my father said, his deep voice resonating in the quiet room. But now they need to take responsibility for the consequences. They, I echoed, incredulous. So you're just accepting this? Your younger son betrayed your older son, and you're okay with that? Of course we're not okay with it, my mother said, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled away. But we have to think about what's best for everyone involved, especially the baby. A paternity test, I said firmly. That's the first step. Before anyone makes any decisions about anything, we need to know who the father is. Melissa already agreed to that, Alex said quietly. Results should take about a week. And until then, I asked, looking from one family member to another. My father cleared his throat. We think it's best if Melissa stays here with us until things are figured out. She's scared, Ryan. Her parents are in Arizona, and she needs support right now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want my cheating ex-girlfriend to move in with you, into our family home. It's temporary, my mother assured me, just until we know more. The poor girl is terrified and has nowhere else to go. The poor girl, I repeated, laughing bitterly. She slept with your son, your other son, and you're worried about her. Ryan, I know you're hurt, my father began. Hurt? Dad, I'm not hurt. I'm destroyed. My girlfriend and my brother betrayed me, and now you're inviting her to live with you. What about me? Where's my support? The room fell silent. My mother looked down at her hands folded neatly on the table. My father's jaw tightened. Alex stared at the floor. I see, I said, the realization dawning on me like ice water. You've already chosen sides. It's not about sides, my mother insisted. It's about doing what's right. Right for who, Mom? Not for me, clearly. The next week passed in a blur of rage and disbelief. I threw myself into schoolwork, staying at the library until it closed every night. Anything to avoid going home where I might see Alex or, worse, receive another update from my parents about Melissa. They called daily, asking how I was, telling me they were praying for me, for all of us, as if prayer could fix the gaping hole where my trust used to be. Then came the call from Alex. The paternity test results were in. The baby was his. I should have felt something, relief perhaps, that at least I wouldn't be tied to Melissa forever through a child. But all I felt was numb. The fact that my brother had created this situation in the first place overrode everything else. My parents called an hour later, asking me to come over again, another family meeting. This time when I arrived, Melissa was there too, sitting next to Alex on the couch, her hand protectively over her still flat stomach. We've made some decisions, my father announced once we were all seated. Alex and Melissa have decided to get married. The words hit me like a slap. Married. You've been together for, 5 minutes? And those 5 minutes were cheating on me. Ryan, please, my mother pleaded. This isn't helping anyone. We're doing this for the baby, Alex said, looking me in the eye for the first time since I'd arrived. We want to give him or her a proper family. A proper family, I echoed, built on betrayal. That's rich. We need to move forward, my father said firmly. All of us. As a family. And how exactly do you expect me to do that? Just forget everything and play happy families. Be the fun uncle to the kid that destroyed my relationship. We're not asking you to forget, my mother said softly. We're asking you to forgive. It's what we do as Christians. We forgive each other. Don't bring religion into this, I warned. There's nothing Christian about what happened. People make mistakes, Ryan, my father said. Terrible ones sometimes. But we don't turn our backs on family because of mistakes. No, apparently we just invite the mistakes to move in, I retorted. What happened next would haunt me for years. My father stood up, his imposing frame towering over me. That's enough, Ryan. I understand you're hurting, but Melissa is carrying my grandchild. Alex is stepping up to his responsibilities. Now you need to step up and be the bigger person here. The bigger person? Are you kidding me? Why am I the one who has to be bigger? Why isn't Alex being held accountable for what he did? He is, my mother interjected. He's marrying Melissa, changing all his plans to support this baby. That's accountability. And what about me? What about my plans, my future, my trust? Does none of that matter? My parents exchanged a look I couldn't decipher. Then my mother said gently, "Of course it matters, sweetheart. But right now we need to focus on the baby, on making sure it has everything it needs." That's when I noticed the boxes in the corner of the living room. Moving boxes labeled nursery. "What are those?" I asked, even though I already knew. My father followed my gaze. "We're converting your old bedroom into a nursery for the baby. Alex and Melissa will be staying here until they can afford their own place." I stared at them, unable to comprehend what I was hearing. "You're giving them my room." "You haven't lived here in years, Ryan," my father pointed out. "You have your apartment near campus." "That's not the point. It's the principle of the thing. You're literally making space for them by erasing me." "Don't be dramatic," my father said dismissively. "No one is erasing you." "Oh, really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've already replaced me with the new and improved family unit." I turned to Alex. "Congratulations, little brother. You've finally won." "This isn't a competition, Ryan," Alex said quietly. "I never wanted any of this to happen. But it did happen, and now everyone's bending over backward to accommodate you, while I'm expected to just smile and take it." My mother stood then and approached me, hands outstretched as if to embrace me. I stepped back. "Ryan, darling, we love you. So much. But right now, Alex and Melissa and this baby need us. The Bible teaches us to care for the least among us, and right now, that's this unborn child." "Don't," I said, my voice cracking. "Don't use the Bible to justify choosing them over me." "We're not choosing anyone over," my father began, but I cut him off. "Yes, you are. You absolutely are. You're giving them my room. You're planning their wedding. You're talking about family and forgiveness while completely ignoring how I feel about all of this." "Ryan, you need to calm down," my father warned. "No, I don't need to calm down. I need you to acknowledge what's happening here. You're choosing the son who betrayed me over the son who's always done everything right. You're choosing the girl who cheated on me over me. You're rewriting the whole narrative to make them the victims and me the villain for not getting on board." "That's enough," my father thundered, slamming his hand on the coffee table. "I will not have you speak to us this way in our own home. Your home, the one you're giving to them, the one where my room is being turned into a nursery for their kid." "Ryan, please." Melissa spoke for the first time, her voice small. "We never meant to hurt you." I turned to her, rage boiling over. "You don't get to speak to me. Not ever again." "Don't talk to her like that," Alex warned, standing up. I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "Defending her honor now. Little late for that, don't you think?" "That's it," my father said, pointing to the door. "I think you should leave until you can discuss this rationally." I looked around at their faces, my father's anger, my mother's tears, Alex's defiance, Melissa's guilt, and realized with perfect clarity that I no longer belonged here. This wasn't my family anymore. "You want me to leave? Fine, I'll leave, but don't expect me to come back." I stormed out, ignoring my mother's cries, and slammed the door behind me. In the driveway, I paused, hoping someone would follow me out, tell me to come back, say they were sorry. No one did. The next few weeks were a blur of rage and despair. I stopped answering my parents' calls. I blocked Alex's number entirely. I threw myself into my studies, into my part-time job at the campus bookstore, into anything that would distract me from the crater where my family used to be. I stopped going to church. I stopped believing in a God who would let this happen to me. Then came the email from my father. Subject line, college fund. The message was brief and devastating. They had decided to use my college fund, money I had been counting on for my final year in graduate school, to help Alex and Melissa get started in their new life together. They said they were sorry, but the baby needed stability, and this was the best way to provide it. They said they had faith I would understand someday. I didn't understand. I would never understand. Not only had they taken my brother's side, my girlfriend's side, but now they were taking my money too. Money that was meant for my future. Money I'd been counting on. I called my father for the first time in weeks, shaking with fury. "You took my college fund," I demanded when he answered. "Ryan, we didn't take it. We're reallocating it. To Alex and Melissa, to the people who betrayed me. That money was for my education. You have scholarships, Ryan. You've always been the smart one, the capable one. Alex needs help because of a situation he created, a situation he caused by betraying me." My father's voice hardened. "The situation is what it is. The baby is innocent in all this, and we're going to make sure it has everything it needs. At my expense. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family." I laughed bitterly. "That's rich, Dad. Real rich. Apparently, I'm the only one expected to sacrifice. Everyone else gets rewarded for their mistakes. Ryan, I know you're upset. Upset? I'm beyond upset. You've betrayed me just as much as they have. You chose them over me. You're giving them my money, my room, your support, everything. What do I get? Nothing but expectations to forgive and forget, to be the bigger person. Well, I'm done. I'm done with all of you. Don't say things you'll regret," my father warned. "The only thing I regret is trusting any of you." I hung up and threw my phone across the room, watching as it shattered against the wall. The perfect metaphor for my life. For the next 3 years, I disappeared. Not physically. I stayed in the same city, finished my degree, got a job at a marketing firm. But emotionally, I was gone. I cut all ties with my family. I changed my phone number. I moved to a new apartment. I made new friends who knew nothing about my past. I dated casually, but never let anyone get close. I built walls around my heart so high and thick that nothing would ever break through again. I heard about the wedding through a mutual family friend who didn't realize we were estranged. I heard about the birth of their son 6 months later the same way. I didn't send cards or gifts. I didn't call to congratulate them. As far as I was concerned, they no longer existed. I worked hard, channeling all my rage into ambition. I climbed the corporate ladder with single-minded determination. By 26, I was the youngest marketing director the firm had ever had. I bought a sleek downtown condo with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture. I leased a German car I couldn't really afford. I created the appearance of success, hoping it would fill the void inside me. It didn't. Late one night, almost 4 years after I'd walked out of my parents' house for the last time, my phone rang. An unknown number. Normally I would ignore it, but something made me answer. "Hello," I said cautiously. "Ryan." The voice was fragile, uncertain. My mother. "Ryan, is that you?" I almost hung up. Almost. But something in her voice stopped me. "How did you get this number?" She let out a small sob. "Oh, thank God. I've been trying to find you for weeks. Your old work number, your old friends. I finally called your college alumni office and begged them." "What do you want?" I asked, my tone flat. "Ryan, we need help." Her voice broke. "Everything's gone wrong. Your father's company went bankrupt last year. We lost the house. We've been living in a small apartment, but now we can't even afford that. Alex lost his job 6 months ago and can't find another one. Melissa's working double shifts at the diner, but it's not enough. The baby, your nephew, he needs things we can't provide." I said nothing, letting her words hang in the air between us. "I know we have no right to ask," she continued, her voice small. "I know we hurt you terribly, but we have nowhere else to turn. We've exhausted every option. And now you think of me, I said quietly. Now that you need something, you remember I exist. Ryan, please. I know you're angry. I'm not angry anymore, Mom. I'm indifferent. You made your choice 4 years ago. You chose Alex and Melissa over me. You chose their future over mine. And now you want me to save you from the consequences of that choice. We were wrong, she whispered. So wrong. We thought we were doing the right thing, following what our faith told us to do, but we lost sight of what was truly important. We lost you. For a moment, I almost wavered. Almost. But then I remembered the empty bank account where my college fund had been, the boxes labeled nursery in what had once been my bedroom, the way they had justified their betrayal with religious platitudes. I'm sorry you're struggling, I said, my voice steady, but I can't help you. Ryan, please. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up, my hands shaking slightly. I poured myself a drink and stood at my window, looking out at the city lights below. I should have felt something, satisfaction, vindication, even guilt. But all I felt was empty. The calls continued over the next few weeks. My mother, then my father, then even Alex. I ignored most of them, but occasionally, when the same nagging curiosity that had made me answer the first call resurfaced, I would pick up. My father was less apologetic than my mother. We did what we thought was right at the time, he insisted. We made mistakes, yes, but we were trying to follow our faith. Your faith told you to betray your son, I asked coolly. We never meant to betray you, Ryan. We were trying to help everyone involved. Everyone except me. He sighed heavily. We're asking for your help now. Not for us, but for your nephew. He's innocent in all of this. My nephew, I repeated. The child that was conceived when my brother slept with my girlfriend. The child you took my future to support. That nephew. He's just a little boy, Ryan. A little boy who needs his uncle. He has a father, I said coldly. Let his father take care of him. Alex's call was the worst. He actually tried to justify what he'd done. I know it was wrong, he said, but it led to Jacob, and I can't regret anything that led to him. He's the best thing in my life. Good for you, I replied. I'm happy for you. But that doesn't change what you did to me. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Alex said. I'm asking you to help us. For Jacob's sake. The same way you thought about me when you slept with my girlfriend. The same way Mom and Dad thought about me when they gave you my college fund. That kind of consideration. We were wrong, Alex admitted. All of us. We hurt you badly, and we can never undo that. But right now, we're desperate. Jacob needs medicine we can't afford. Dad's health is failing. We're about to be evicted. We have nowhere else to turn. You should have thought about all of that before you destroyed my life, I said, and hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. But then came Melissa's call. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out once again. Ryan, she said, her voice older, harder than I remembered. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about, Melissa. Maybe not for your sake or mine, but for Jacob's. Her tone was urgent. He's sick, Ryan. Really sick. He needs surgery we can't afford. Your parents are broke. Alex can't hold down a job because he has to take care of Jacob most days. I'm working every hour I can, but it's not enough. We've tried everything. Loans, charities, payment plans. Nothing's working. And I said nothing. I know what we did to you was unforgivable, she continued. I live with that guilt every day. But Jacob is just a child, an innocent child. He doesn't deserve to suffer because of what we did. And I didn't deserve what you all did to me, I countered. But that didn't stop you, did it? No, it didn't. And I'm sorry, truly sorry. But I'm not calling to ask for your forgiveness. I'm calling to ask for your help. Not for me, not for Alex, not even for your parents, for Jacob. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the image of a sick child that her words conjured. I can't, Melissa. I just can't. Can't or won't, she challenged. Both. I cut you all out of my life for a reason, opening that door again, even for Jacob. I can't do it. She was silent for a long moment. Then, I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. Goodbye, Ryan. The call stopped after that. For a few weeks, I convinced myself it was over, that I could go back to my carefully constructed life, free from the pain and betrayal of my past. But the silence was almost worse than the calls. It left me alone with my thoughts, with the images Melissa's words had planted in my mind. A sick child, my nephew, innocent, as they all kept saying. I told myself it wasn't my problem. They had made their choices, and these were the consequences. I had made my choice too, to walk away, to save myself from further hurt. I had no obligation to save them from themselves, but the thought nagged at me, keeping me awake at night. Was I becoming just like them, cold, calculating, putting principles above people? Was I using my hurt as an excuse to be cruel? No, I decided. It wasn't the same. They had actively betrayed me. I was simply refusing to help the people who had destroyed my life. There was a difference, wasn't there? The question haunted me until I found myself parked outside a rundown apartment complex in a part of town I never visited. I'd gotten the address from a reverse phone lookup of my mother's number. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, debating whether to go in or drive away, and never look back. Finally, curiosity won out once again. I had to see for myself what had become of the family that had once been mine. The building was as depressing inside as it was outside. Peeling paint, flickering fluorescent lights, the faint smell of garbage and despair. I found apartment 307 and stood outside the door, heart pounding. Before I could change my mind, I knocked. The door opened to reveal my mother, aged a decade in the 4 years since I'd last seen her. Her hair was completely gray now, her face lined with worry. She stared at me as if seeing a ghost. "Ryan," she whispered, "is it really you?" I nodded stiffly. "May I come in?" She stepped aside wordlessly, tears already forming in her eyes. The apartment was small and cluttered, nothing like the spacious, orderly home I'd grown up in. My father sat in a threadbare armchair, oxygen tubes in his nose, a blanket over his legs despite the summer heat. He looked up as I entered, his eyes widening in shock. "Son," he croaked, his voice weaker than I remembered. "Dad," I acknowledged with a nod. "You came," my mother said, her voice filled with wonder. "You actually came." "I came to see," I said carefully, "not to help. I needed to see for myself." My mother nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Of course. Would you like some coffee? Tea? It's not much, but—" "No, thank you. I won't be staying long." A door opened down the short hallway, and Alex emerged, looking exhausted. He froze when he saw me, disbelief written across his face. "Ryan." "Hello, Alex." He took a hesitant step forward, then stopped, uncertainty in every line of his body. "I can't believe you're here." "Neither can I admitted. "Jacob's finally asleep," he said, seemingly at a loss for what else to say. "He had a rough night. The medicine makes him nauseous." I nodded, unsure how to respond to information about a nephew I'd never met. "Would you like to see him?" Alex asked cautiously. "He's sleeping, but—" "No," I said quickly. "That's not why I'm here." My father struggled to sit up straighter in his chair. "Why are you here then, Ryan? After all this time?" I looked around at their faces, aged, tired, broken, and felt a strange mix of emotions. Satisfaction that they were suffering the consequences of their actions. Pity for how far they had fallen. Anger that still burned, even after all these years. And something else, something I couldn't quite name. "I wanted to see what happened to you," I said honestly. "I wanted to see if it was as bad as you said." "It's worse," my mother said quietly. "Your father's emphysema has progressed faster than the doctors expected. Alex lost another job last week. Jacob needs more tests, more treatments. The eviction notice came yesterday." I nodded, taking it all in. Their desperation was real, not a ploy to manipulate me. They had truly hit rock bottom. "I see, Ma," I said. "But you're doing well," my father observed, eyeing my expensive watch, my tailored shirt. "You made it without us." "I did," I agreed, a hint of pride in my voice. "I finished college on my own, got a good job, worked my way up. I'm the marketing director now." "We always knew you would succeed," my mother said softly. "You were always the strong one, the smart one." Her words, meant as a compliment, sparked my anger anew. Then why did you bet on Alex instead of me? Why did you give him everything and leave me with nothing? The room fell silent. My father looked away, unable to meet my gaze. My mother wrung her hands together, a nervous habit I remembered from childhood. "We thought we were doing the right thing," she finally said. "We thought we were following God's will, protecting the innocent, showing mercy. We convinced ourselves that you would be fine without our help, that you were strong enough to handle it. We were wrong. Yes, I agreed coldly. You were wrong. We can't change the past, my father said, his voice thin and reedy. We can only ask for forgiveness now. I laughed short and sharp. Forgiveness? Is that what you think this is about? You think I came here to forgive you? We hope you might, my mother admitted. Someday, if not today. I shook my head, anger and hurt rising like a tide inside me. You don't get it, do you? Even now, you don't understand what you did. You didn't just take away my money, my room, my girlfriend. You took away my trust, my family, my faith. You took everything that mattered and gave it to them. I pointed at Alex. And now you want forgiveness. Now that you need something from me again. Ryan, please, Alex began. No, I cut him off. You don't get to speak. None of you do. You made your choice 4 years ago. You chose each other over me. And now you're living with the consequences. I turned to leave, my hand on the doorknob, when a small voice stopped me. Who are you? I turned to see a little boy standing in the hallway, rubbing sleepy eyes, dark hair tousled from sleep. Jacob, my nephew. He looked so much like Alex had at that age that it was like looking at a photograph from our childhood. Jacob, go back to bed, buddy, Alex said quickly, moving to intercept his son. But the boy was staring at me with curious eyes. Are you Uncle Ryan? Daddy talks about you sometimes. I froze, unprepared for this confrontation. Yes, I admitted reluctantly. I'm Ryan. Daddy said you live far away. Are you back now? Can you fix Grandpa like the doctors? Alex picked up his son, shooting me an apologetic look. No, buddy. Uncle Ryan was just visiting. He's not staying. The boy's face fell. But I wanted to show him my cars. Another time, maybe, Alex said, not meeting my eyes. Let's get you back to bed. As Alex carried Jacob back to his room, my mother approached me cautiously. He asks about you all the time. Wants to know why he's never met his uncle. What do you tell him? I asked despite myself. That you're busy. That you live far away. She sighed. We didn't want him to know the truth. About what we did, about why you left. I nodded, unexpectedly touched by this small kindness. He's a good boy, she continued. Smart, like you were. Loves dinosaurs and cars, always asking questions about how things work. I said nothing, but I didn't move toward the door either. The doctors say with the right treatment, he'll recover completely. But we can't afford it. We've tried everything, Ryan. Everything. I closed my eyes, torn between the hurt that still raged inside me and the undeniable reality of an innocent child suffering for sins he didn't commit. I have to go, I said finally, opening my eyes. I need time to think. Hope flickered across my mother's tired face. Of course. Take all the time you need. We'll be here. If we're not evicted first, my father muttered from his chair. I left without another word, my mind in turmoil. The drive back to my condo was a blur. Once inside, I poured myself a drink and stood at my window, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and pink. The view that had once seemed like the ultimate symbol of my success now felt hollow, meaningless. What was I going to do? Could I really turn my back on a sick child, even one born from betrayal? Could I let my parents become homeless? My father die without proper medical care, just to prove a point. Was my hurt worth more than their lives? But if I helped them, wasn't I just enabling them, rewarding their betrayal? And wouldn't it reopen all the old wounds I'd worked so hard to heal? I spent the night wrestling with these questions, sleep eluding me completely. By morning, I had no answers, only more questions and a profound sense of weariness. Then my phone rang. Alex. I answered after the fourth ring, curiosity once again getting the better of me. Ryan, thank God, he said, his voice frantic. Dad's in the hospital. He collapsed this morning. The doctors say it's pneumonia, with his emphysema. It's bad, Ryan. Really bad. I closed my eyes, suddenly exhausted. Which hospital? Memorial. ICU. Room 412. I hung up without saying anything more. I had a choice to make. I could go to the hospital, get sucked back into the vortex of family drama and obligation, or I could stay away, continue the life I'd built without them. In the end, it wasn't really a choice at all. Something pulled me to that hospital, something stronger than hurt or pride or anger. When I arrived at room 412, they were all there. My mother, Alex, and a woman I assumed was Melissa, though she looked nothing like the girl I remembered. Jacob sat quietly in a corner, coloring in a tattered coloring book. My father lay in the hospital bed, looking small and frail beneath the oxygen mask and tangle of tubes. The steady beep of monitors filled the room. He was sleeping, or unconscious, I couldn't tell which. My mother saw me first, her face lighting up with hope. "You came," she whispered. "I came," I agreed. "How is he?" "Not good," Alex answered. "The doctor says the next 24 hours are critical. If he makes it through the night." I nodded, understanding the unspoken word. "If." "Ryan," the woman said, stepping forward. "Melissa." Her face was thinner than I remembered, her eyes older. "Thank you for coming." I didn't acknowledge her. Instead, I moved to my father's bedside, looking down at the man who had once seemed so powerful, so immovable. Now he was wasting away before my eyes. "What do the doctors say he needs?" I asked, my voice clinical, detached. "Better care than we can afford," my mother admitted. "The insurance ran out months ago. We're paying out of pocket now, and they're threatening to transfer him to a county facility if we can't pay the bill." I nodded, making calculations in my head. My marketing job paid well. I had savings, not enough to fix all their problems, but enough to keep my father in this hospital, to pay for Jacob's treatment. "I'll cover the hospital bill," I said, my voice flat, "and Jacob's medical expenses. But that's it, nothing else." The relief on their faces was palpable, almost embarrassing in its intensity. My mother began to cry, reaching for my hand. I let her take it, though I didn't squeeze back. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you, Ryan. God bless you." "Don't bring God into this," I said quietly. "This isn't about faith or forgiveness. It's about basic humanity, nothing more." She nodded, wiping at her tears. "We understand. But thank you anyway." Jacob looked up from his coloring book, curious about the commotion. "Is Grandpa going to be okay now?" he asked. Alex knelt beside his son. "We hope so, buddy. Uncle Ryan is going to help make sure Grandpa gets the best care possible." Jacob's eyes found mine, wide and trusting. "Thank you, Uncle Ryan." Something in his innocent gratitude pierced the armor around my heart. I nodded once, acknowledging his thanks before turning back to my mother. "I'll speak to the hospital administration about the bill. Is there anything else the doctor said he needs?" She shook her head. "Just time and proper care." "All right, I'll see what I can arrange." I spent the next few hours navigating hospital bureaucracy, setting up payment arrangements, ensuring my father wouldn't be transferred. By the time I returned to his room, visiting hours were almost over. "You should all go home," I told my family. "Get some rest. I'll stay with him tonight." They protested weakly, but the exhaustion in their eyes betrayed them. They needed sleep, a break from the constant vigil. "I'll call if anything changes," I promised. "Go. Take care of Jacob." Once they were gone, I sat in the uncomfortable chair beside my father's bed, watching the rise and fall of his chest, listening to the rhythmic beep of the monitors. The anger that had sustained me for so long felt distant now, replaced by a strange emptiness. "I don't forgive you," I said quietly to my unconscious father. "I want you to know that. I'm not doing this because I forgive you or because I want to be part of the family again. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, because I refuse to be like you, to put principles above people." My father didn't stir, but somehow saying the words aloud eased something inside me. I wasn't here to reconcile or forgive. I was here to be the person they had failed to be. Someone who helped when help was needed, regardless of the past. The days that followed fell into a pattern. I would go to work, then to the hospital. I would sit with my father, sometimes talking, sometimes silent. I arranged for Jacob's treatment, set up payment plans for my parents' rent, made sure they had groceries and necessities. I did what needed to be done, but I kept my emotional distance. I didn't join their family dinners or reminisce about old times. I didn't look at photo albums or talk about the future. I was there, but not present. My father's condition improved gradually. He was moved out of the ICU, then to a regular room, then to a rehabilitation facility. Jacob's treatment began to show results. The circles under his eyes faded and his energy returned. My mother stopped looking quite so haunted. Alex found a job, a steady one with benefits. Melissa worked fewer shifts, spent more time with Jacob. I watched their lives improve from a safe distance, like a benefactor observing a charity project. I didn't want their gratitude or their love. I wanted nothing from them at all. I was doing this for myself, to prove I was better than they had been, to sleep at night knowing I hadn't turned my back on people in need, even people who had hurt me deeply. But life has a way of complicating even the simplest plans. 6 months after my father's hospitalization, I met someone. Her name was Claire, and she was nothing like Melissa. She was confident, independent, with a sharp wit and a kind heart. We met at a work function. She was a graphic designer hired for a campaign I was directing. We started with coffee, then dinner, then weekends spent exploring the city together. She made me laugh, something I hadn't done much of in recent years. Claire noticed my weekly hospital visits, my careful management of my family's affairs. She asked questions I didn't want to answer, pressed for details I wasn't ready to share. "You're helping them, but you won't let them help you back," she observed one night as we sat on my balcony watching the city lights. "You give money, time, support, but you won't take so much as a home-cooked meal from your mother." "Why?" I sipped my wine, considering how much to tell her. "It's complicated. Most family things are," she agreed, "but I'm a good listener." So I told her everything. The betrayal, the abandonment, the years of anger and hurt, the recent reconciliation that wasn't really a reconciliation at all. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You haven't forgiven them." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "No, I don't think I can." "But you're helping them. Why?" I struggled to articulate what I had never fully articulated even to myself. "Because I won't be like them. I won't turn my back on people who need me, even if they hurt me. I won't use principles or faith or anything else as an excuse to be cruel." Claire nodded, understanding in her eyes. "You're a good man, Ryan. Better than you give yourself credit for." "I'm not," I insisted. "I'm just trying to be someone I can live with." "That's all any of us can do," she said softly. Claire's perspective challenged me. She saw my family through fresh eyes without the years of hurt clouding her vision. She pointed out small moments of genuine remorse I might have missed. My father's quiet tears when I helped him with physical therapy. My mother's careful respect of my boundaries. Alex's unwavering work ethic as he tried to support his family without my help. "They're trying," she told me one day after we'd visited my father in rehab. "They're really trying to make amends." "Too little, too late," I replied. "Maybe," she conceded, "but isn't effort worth something? Isn't change worth acknowledging, even if it doesn't erase the past?" I had no answer for her. The truth was, I was afraid to let go of my anger. It had protected me for so long, kept me safe from further hurt. If I acknowledged their efforts, if I let myself believe they had changed, I might open myself up to pain again. And I wasn't sure I could survive that a second time. But Claire's words stayed with me, making me notice things I might otherwise have ignored. The way Jacob's face lit up when I arrived for visits. The way my mother never pushed for more than I was willing to give. The way Alex worked 2 jobs without complaint, determined to stand on his own feet again. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe understanding. Maybe the beginnings of compassion. My father was released from rehab after 3 months. He would never fully recover. His lungs were too damaged. But he could live at home with oxygen support and regular checkups. Jacob's treatment was working. His doctors were optimistic about a full recovery. Alex had been promoted, Melissa had found a better job, and they were saving for a place of their own. On the day my father came home, I visited briefly, making sure he was settled, checking that they had everything they needed. As I was leaving, my mother followed me to the door. "Ryan," she said hesitantly, "we've been talking, your father, Alex, Melissa, and I, and we want you to know something. We're planning to pay you back. Every penny. It might take years, but we will." I stared at her, surprised. "That's not necessary." "Yes, it is," she insisted. "What we did to you was wrong. Taking your college fund, turning our backs on you when you needed us most, it was unforgivable. We know that now. We can't change the past, but we can try to make amends for it." I didn't know what to say. This was the first time any of them had acknowledged the full extent of their betrayal without justification or excuses. We don't expect forgiveness, she continued, her eyes wet but her voice steady. We don't deserve it, but we want you to know that we understand what we did, and we're truly sorry. Not just because we needed your help, but because what we did was wrong. Period. I nodded, unable to speak past the unexpected lump in my throat. And we're grateful, she added, not just for the financial help, though God knows we needed it, but for the example you've set for Jacob, for showing him what real strength and integrity look like, for being the kind of man we should have helped you become, instead of the kind of people we turned out to be. I cleared my throat, finding my voice at last. Thank you for saying that. It means something. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement, and for now that was enough. Claire and I married the following spring. It was a small ceremony, just close friends and colleagues. I didn't invite my family, not because I was still punishing them, but because I wasn't ready to share that part of my life with them yet. I needed something that was mine alone, untainted by the past. They understood. They sent a card and a small gift, a handmade quilt my mother had spent months creating, but they respected my decision not to include them. Their respect for my boundaries meant more than any apology ever could. Over the next year, our lives continued to evolve. Claire and I bought a house in a quiet neighborhood, away from the hustle of downtown. My father's health stabilized. Alex and Melissa found an apartment of their own, small but clean and safe. Jacob started school, thriving under his teacher's attention. I maintained my distance, helping when necessary but never fully engaging. I was cordial during visits, would occasionally accept a cup of coffee or a slice of my mother's apple pie, but I didn't share personal details or invite confidences. It was a careful dance, a relationship built on obligation rather than affection, until the day Claire told me she was pregnant. The news hit me like a thunderbolt, joy and terror in equal measure. I was going to be a father. I would have a child of my own, a family of my own making. Are you happy? Claire asked anxiously, watching my face. Yes, I said, surprised to find it was true. Yes, I am. That night, unable to sleep, I found myself thinking about my own father, about the kind of parent I wanted to be. I thought about the lessons I'd learned from him, both good and bad. I thought about the legacy of hurt and betrayal I carried, and whether I wanted to pass that on to my child. The next morning, I made a decision. I called my mother. I need to talk to all of you, I said without preamble. Can you come to our house for dinner on Saturday? There was a pause then. All of us. Me, your father, Alex, Melissa, Jacob. Yes, all of you. Of course, she said, excitement and nervousness mingling in her voice. We'd be honored. Saturday arrived with a sense of momentous occasion. Claire prepared a feast, determined to make everyone feel welcome. I paced the living room, rehearsing what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it. They arrived together, a unified front. Jacob, now 7, ran to me immediately, wrapping his arms around my legs in an enthusiastic hug. I patted his head awkwardly, still unused to such displays of affection. Uncle Ryan, I lost 2 teeth, he announced proudly, displaying the gaps in his smile. Very impressive, I said, smiling despite myself. The adults were more reserved, waiting for cues from me. I invited them in, offered drinks, made small talk about the weather and traffic. Claire, bless her, kept the conversation flowing through dinner, asking about Jacob's school, my father's health, Alex's job. It wasn't until dessert, apple pie, my mother's recipe, but Claire's execution, that I finally said what I'd invited them to hear. Claire's pregnant, I announced into a lull in the conversation. We're having a baby. The table erupted in exclamations of joy and congratulations. My mother cried, "Oh, of course." My father beamed with pride. Alex offered a toast with his water glass. Melissa asked Claire 1,000 questions about due dates and morning sickness. When the excitement died down, I cleared my throat, suddenly nervous. There's something else I want to say. They fell silent, watching me with varying degrees of apprehension. I've been thinking a lot about family lately, I began, about what it means to be a parent, a brother, a son, about the mistakes we make and the consequences that follow, about forgiveness and second chances. My father's eyes met mine, a flicker of hope in their depths. I'm going to be a father, I continued, and I don't want my child to grow up in the shadow of old hurts and grievances. I don't want to pass on the pain I've carried for so long. I took a deep breath, steadying myself for what came next. I can't say I've forgiven you completely. I don't know if I ever will, not entirely. What happened changed me, changed all of us. We can't pretend it didn't, but I'm ready to move forward, to build something new, something better, for the next generation. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. My father nodded, understanding in his eyes. Alex stared at the table, his shoulders slumped in what might have been relief. I want my child to know their grandparents, their uncle and aunt, their cousin. I want them to have a family, a real one, built on honesty and respect, not secrets and betrayal. And I think that's what you want too. More than anything, my mother whispered. Then that's where we start, I said simply. Not with forgetting or excusing, but with honesty, with acknowledging what happened and making sure it never happens again, with building something new from the ashes of what was destroyed. Jacob, who had been unusually quiet during this exchange, looked up from his pie. Does that mean I'm going to have a cousin? I smiled at him, the first genuine smile I'd given any of them in years. Yes, Jacob. You're going to have a cousin. Cool, he said, returning to his pie with renewed interest. And just like that, the tension broke. Laughter rippled around the table, tentative at first, then stronger. We weren't healed, not completely. The scars remained visible in the careful way we interacted. The topics we still avoided, but we had taken a step, an important one. Claire squeezed my hand under the table, pride in her eyes. I squeezed back, grateful beyond words for the woman who had shown me that healing was possible, that moving forward didn't mean forgetting the past. As I looked around the table at the faces of my family, flawed, human, trying their best, I realized something profound. They had once made a choice that destroyed me, choosing my brother's future over mine. Now I was making a choice too, not out of obligation or duty, but out of hope for something better. I was choosing a future where old wounds could heal, where new bonds could form, where the cycle of hurt could finally be broken. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the family I'd once imagined, but it was real, and it was mine. And for the first time in many years, I believed it might be enough. 6 months later, Claire gave birth to a daughter. We named her Grace, not for religious reasons, but because she represented the grace we had found in starting over, in choosing forgiveness over resentment, hope over despair. My parents, Alex, Melissa, and Jacob, were at the hospital within hours of her birth. As I watched my father hold his granddaughter for the first time, his weathered hands gentle against her tiny body, I felt the last hard edges of my anger begin to soften. Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because I deserve peace. Because Grace deserved a family united by love instead of divided by pain. Because some debts can never be repaid and some wounds never fully heal, but that doesn't mean we stop trying to be better, to do better, for the ones who come after us. My brother got my girlfriend pregnant. My parents threw me out of the house because of him and my unfaithful ex-girlfriend. And yes, they paid a price for their choice. In years of poverty and struggle, in a relationship with their son fractured, perhaps beyond complete repair. But in the end, the highest price was the one I nearly paid myself. A lifetime of anger and isolation, of walls built so high I couldn't see over them, of a heart hardened against not just those who had hurt me, but anyone who might get close enough to hurt me again. As I held my daughter in my arms, her tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb, I made a silent promise. I would protect her, not just from external threats, but from the internal ones as well. From bitterness that corrodes from within, from anger that blinds, from hurt that hardens into something unbreakable and ultimately empty. I would teach her that family isn't perfect, that people make terrible mistakes, inflict terrible hurts, that forgiveness isn't always possible or even desirable, but that moving forward is always an option, that healing, imperfect and incomplete as it may be, is always worth pursuing. That love, in all its messy, complicated glory, is always worth the risk. The family sitting in that hospital waiting room wasn't the one I'd imagined for myself all those years ago. It was broken and remade, scarred and healing, fragile and strong all at once. But as Grace's birth announcements would later read, all things are made new. Not perfect, not unmarked by the past, but new nonetheless. And in that newness, that fresh beginning, we all found something we thought had been lost forever. Hope. Not for the restoration of what once was, but for the creation of something that had never existed before. A family built not on blood or obligation or religious principle, but on choice, on honesty, on the recognition that we are all flawed, all capable of both great hurt and great healing. In the end, they didn't pay the price for their choice. We all did, and we're all still paying it in ways both painful and redemptive. But now we're paying it together, eyes open, hands linked, moving towards something better than what came before. And that, I've come to believe, is the only justice, the only redemption worth having.